Gentle waves lap against the shore as the sun sets on a secluded island, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. In the warm embrace of summer, Sarah Bennett found herself on a remote island off the coast of Maine, a sanctuary meant to provide solace from the relentless pressures of her life back in the city. A married woman with 2 children, she often felt suffocated by her routine. The island, however, whispered promises of freedom and adventure.
Just a few weeks of peace. That's all I need.
One sunny morning, while wandering along the beach, Sarah's gaze fell upon a striking figure on the water, a sailor with tousled hair and a charming smile. His name was Jared, a local who spent his days sailing the crystal-clear waters and his nights under the stars. With an aura of adventure and a twinkle in his eye, he approached Sarah, a playful smirk dancing on his lips.
Lost, are we? Or just searching for something more exciting than a beach towel?
Maybe a bit of both. I'm Sarah, just trying to escape my daily grind for a while.
Their banter flowed naturally, sparking a connection neither could resist. As the days turned into evenings, Sarah found herself drawn to Jared. He was everything her husband Mark was not: spontaneous, carefree, and intoxicatingly passionate about life. Each day they shared laughter and stories, each sunset unveiling deeper connections between them.
You know, the sea has a way of revealing who we truly are. What do you want, Sarah?
Sarah paused, contemplating.
I want to feel alive again. I want to break free from the chains of responsibility.
Their chemistry was undeniable, and Sarah felt a thrill she hadn't experienced in years. One evening, as they sailed into the sunset, the air thick with tension, she leaned closer.
What if we let go of our pasts, even if just for a moment?
Jared gazed into her eyes.
Then let's make this moment last forever, even if it's just tonight.
In that stolen moment, under a sky painted with stars, their lips met, a gentle caress that ignited a fire within Sarah. She knew this was more than just a fling. It was a rebirth. Their affair deepened, each rendezvous more passionate than the last. But with each encounter, the weight of her choices began to settle heavily on her heart. Sarah, breathless, during one of their secret meetings.
This feels so right, yet so wrong. I have a family.
Jared pulls her close.
But does it feel right? At this moment, do you want to go back?
Torn between her loyalty and her newfound freedom, Sarah struggled with the implications of her choices. Weeks passed, and the summer sun began to dip, signaling the end of her island escape. Each day became a bittersweet countdown to the inevitable return to her old life, to the responsibilities she had momentarily shed.
What will you do when the summer ends, Sarah? Will you return to the life that made you feel like a ghost?
I don't know, Jared. You've shown me a side of life I didn't know I was missing.
With each conversation, the stakes grew higher, and Sarah was faced with a life-altering decision. She had to confront her desires against the backdrop of her reality. One final evening, they found themselves on the beach, the stars twinkling overhead like diamonds scattered across velvet. Jared gently cupping her face.
Whatever you decide, know that you're not alone. You have the power to choose your path.
But what about you? Can I leave this behind? You've become everything I didn't know I wanted.
The emotional turmoil coursed through her, every heartbeat resonating with the weight of her choices. As the tide pulled back, revealing the vastness of the ocean, Sarah felt an urge to break free.
I want to reclaim my life, but I need time. I can't just walk away from everything.
I'll be here, waiting, no matter what you decide.
Their eyes locked, a silent promise exchanged under the moonlit sky. With heavy hearts, they kissed one last time, a bittersweet farewell that lingered long after she returned to her reality. Days turned into weeks as Sarah navigated her life back home. The chaos of motherhood and responsibilities washed over her like waves, but she carried Jared's essence within her. One night, as Sarah tucked her kids into bed, she felt the weight of her life settle over her like a heavy cloak. Her husband, Mark, entered the room, glancing at her briefly before checking his phone.
Aren't you coming to bed?
he asked, barely looking up. She hesitated, searching his face for any sign of the man she'd once fallen in love with.
Do you ever think about what I want?
He scoffed, shaking his head dismissively.
What you want? Sarah, you have everything. Our home, our kids, me. Isn't that enough?
She clenched her fists, holding back a wave of frustration.
Sometimes I feel like I'm just here to take care of the children and keep you happy. But there's more to me than that. I need more than this.
More?
He laughed, a hollow sound.
Sarah, you're my wife. All I ask is that you keep things in order, and I don't think that's too much. Just stop dreaming of things that don't matter.
That night, after he'd fallen asleep, Sarah stood at the window, gazing out over the dark, endless ocean, her heart churning with doubt and longing. A moment later, Mark stirred, waking up to find her lost in thought. His eyes narrowed slightly as he pushed himself up on one elbow, frustration etching his features.
Why are you always standing there like you're waiting for something?
He asked, his voice low and annoyed.
Come back to bed.
I just needed a moment to think.
She replied, her voice barely a whisper. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, the sheets rustling, and walked toward her, a predatory look in his eyes.
What's there to think about? We both know what you need right now.
Mark, please, I'm not in the mood.
Not in the mood? You don't get to decide that? You're my wife. We have obligations to each other.
He insisted, stepping closer, invading her space. He reached out, his hand gripping her arm firmly, and turned her toward him.
This is part of being married. You can't keep pushing me away. I need you.
Need me for what? To fulfill your desires while I feel invisible?
Sarah shot back, a mix of anger and sadness rising within her. Mark's expression darkened, and he leaned in, his breath warm against her ear.
You'll do as I say. It's not just about you anymore.
As he pulled her toward the bed, Sarah felt a wave of panic wash over her, her heart pounding in her chest. She longed for escape, for someone to recognize her pain. But instead, she was being pulled deeper into a life that felt more like a cage. Mark's grip tightened. He pulled her into a rough embrace, forcing himself on her. He didn't consider her will or desires, lost in his own needs. As he finally turned his back to her and dozed off, Sarah lay there, feeling hollow and trapped, her heart sinking under the weight of his indifference. Tears welled in her eyes as she stared at the dark ceiling, her frustration boiling over.
Is this really all I am to you? Just a body to fulfill your desires?
She whispered, her voice trembling with helplessness. In the silence of the room, she felt the sting of her own words, echoing back at her as if they had no power.
I need more than this. I deserve more than this.
She murmured, her heart breaking under the suffocating weight of her reality. But all that surrounded her was the stillness of the night, a stark contrast to the storm raging within. She walked to her children's room and watched them sleep peacefully.
How can I do this? How can I leave my kids, even if just for a while?
Her hands trembled as she clutched the doorframe, wrestling with the pull of guilt.
They need me, but maybe, just maybe, I need me too.
The following summer, she returned to the island, her heart torn but resolute. This time, it wasn't just an escape. It was a journey to reclaim the part of herself she'd hidden away for so long. As Sarah walked along the beach, her heart pounding with anticipation, she called out,
Jared, I'm back!
But as her voice carried across the shore, the figure she saw wasn't Jared. Another woman stood at the water's edge, a look of quiet surprise and familiarity in her eyes as she turned toward Sarah. Sarah's steps faltered, confusion flickering through her. Just then, Jared appeared beside the woman, his hand slipping gently into hers. A wave of shock washed over Sarah as Jared met her gaze, an apologetic look in his eyes.
Sarah,
He murmured, stepping toward her.
I never thought you'd come back.
Stunned, Sarah felt her dreams unravel in a heartbeat. All at once, she understood the price of leaving her life behind and the new life Jared had found without her. She looked past him at the woman, who nodded slightly in understanding, neither of them saying a word. In that moment, Sarah realized that life wasn't just about courageously pursuing a path. It was also about accepting the turns that reshaped it. She took a deep breath, the ocean breeze whispering around her like a balm. The sound of the waves crashing on the shore reminded her that love, like the tides, ebbs and flows, guiding us to places we never imagined. And no matter how many smiles we wear to hide the truth, in the end, all we truly crave and need is to find peace within ourselves.
All You Need Is, a podcast where the heart finds its voice through enchanting romance stories. Join me as we explore the timeless power of love, weaving together tales that spark joy, nostalgia, unspoken desires, a warmth that makes your heart flutter, and the sweet magic of love that transcends time. From the first blush of infatuation to the comfort of lasting connections. Prepare to be swept off your feet as we delve into the intricacies of relationships. Celebrate love in all its forms, and remind you that, at the end of the day, all you need is. Podcast conceptualized and created by Nazar Partiwala using 11 Labs.
Tune in and let your heart be your guide.